I wished various New York Yankees would break arms, legs, and ankles. Yeah, somebody actually said that. It's a shocking thing to hear, right? Such a raw level of hatred. But what's really wild is that this isn't about war or some huge political conflict. It's about baseball. And it turns out, it reveals a pretty surprising secret about how our most intense beliefs are formed, and, more importantly, how they can be taken apart.
I know, it sounds a little crazy, doesn't it? But what if this kind of sports rivalry, this almost comical, over-the-top hatred, was actually the perfect laboratory for understanding our most dangerous prejudices? We're going to dig into how it holds a key to dismantling them. And believe me, that key is not at all what you'd expect.
So to really get a handle on how high the stakes are, let's look at a story that just seems impossible. It's 1983. A black musician, Daryl Davis, is just having a drink with a guy who then casually mentions he's in the Ku Klux Klan. Now, most of us, we'd be out of there. But Daryl Davis, he leaned in. He got curious. And this whole encounter just brought him right back to a question that had been haunting him since he was a kid, after he was attacked by an angry mob during a Cub Scout parade. The question was simple, but so powerful. How can you hate me when you don't even know me? That question, that's the thread we're going to follow today.
Okay, so to understand the mechanics of that kind of hate, you kind of need a safe place to experiment, a laboratory, right? And it turns out there is no better place to study pure, irrational animosity than a ballpark, specifically the legendary rivalry between the Boston Red Sox and the New York Yankees.
So just how deep does this rivalry run? Well, get this. Researchers asked Red Sox fans how much money you'd have to pay them to cheer for the Yankees just for one game. And the average answer was $560. That's not just loyalty, that's literally putting a price tag on prejudice.
And here's the best part. When you actually ask why they hate each other, the reasons they give are absurdly similar, and honestly, they're hilarious. We're talking about complaints like annoying accents, or that they're whiny, and my personal favorite, that the other side smells like corn chips. This is pure, irrational group identity in action. It's amazing.
And that right there, that's the textbook definition of a rivalry. It goes way beyond just simple competition. It's that moment we start defining ourselves by who we're against. You know, it's not enough to love our team. We get this weird sense of satisfaction, of belonging from hating theirs.
So the big question is, how do you break this cycle? Well, researchers tried two super common sense ideas that honestly, everyone assumes should work. And what's so fascinating is that both of them failed. I mean, they failed spectacularly.
Okay, first up, finding common ground. It's a really nice idea, right? It's inspired by this thing called the overview effect that astronauts feel, where seeing the Earth from space makes them feel connected to all of humanity. So the hypothesis was, hey, what if you could do the same thing by reminding Red Sox and Yankees fans that at the end of the day, they're all just baseball fans?
So the experiment itself was pretty straightforward. They got fans from both sides and just had them write about their shared love of the game. Then, the researchers measured whether this little reflection exercise made them feel any less hostile toward the other group.
And the result? A complete failure. A total bust. That shared identity just didn't stick for a second. As one fan put it perfectly, we both love baseball. The Yankees fans just like the wrong team. Their smaller, more intense rival identity completely steamrolled the larger, shared one.
All right, so finding common ground is out. What's plan B? Well, what about empathy? The theory here is simple. If you can humanize just one person from the other side, maybe, just maybe, you can start to break the stereotype of the entire group.
So for this next experiment, Red Sox fans read this really touching story about a Yankees fan's deep personal connection to baseball. You know, memories of playing catch with his mom, learning the game with his grandfather. It was really designed to create a powerful sense of empathy.
And again, failure. The Red Sox fans actually liked the individual guy in the story, but they just walled him off from the rest of the group. They'd say things like, oh, well, this person gets it. He's not your typical Yankee fan. The stereotype of Yankee fans as a whole remained completely untouched. It's this fascinating defense mechanism our brains use. We create a special category for the one good one, just so we can keep hating everyone else.
So if common ground fails and empathy fails, what in the world is left? Well, this is where the story takes a really brilliant turn. The solution has absolutely nothing to do with bringing people together. It has everything to do with showing them how random their beliefs are in the first place.
Let's start with the classic thought experiment you might have heard of, the Ship of Theseus. If you replace every single plank of a ship, one by one, is it still the same ship? Well, a sports team is exactly the same way. The players, the coaches, even the stadium, they all change over time. As Jerry Seinfeld famously joked, you're not rooting for people, you're actually rooting for clothes. Your loyalty isn't to specific people, it's to this abstract idea that just happens to wear the same uniform year after year.
And this insight, this is what led to the huge breakthrough. Forget empathy, forget common ground. Researchers gave the fans a totally different prompt. They simply asked them to think about how their loyalty was basically an accident of geography. I mean, if you were born in New York instead of Boston, you'd be a Yankees fan. That thing you hate the most, it's completely arbitrary.
And it worked. I mean, just look at the difference here. The group that thought about how arbitrary their rivalry was showed a huge drop in hostility. In other tests, they were even less likely to want a rival fan to eat painfully spicy hot sauce. Just realizing their beliefs were based on chance, not some deep, logical choice, was enough to open their minds.
So what can we all take away from this? Well, it's way more than just a cool experiment. It's a powerful mental tool that you can use to challenge your own beliefs. It's something called counterfactual thinking.
Counterfactual thinking is really just the what-if game. You know, what would I believe if I were born in a different country, or into a different family, or even in a different century? This simple act of imagination creates what you might call intellectual humility. It lets you see how many of your most deeply held convictions might just be an accident of your circumstances.
And this brings us right back to where we started, full circle, with Daryl Davis. Because it turns out this exact tool, getting people to question the arbitrary nature of their beliefs, is precisely what he's been using for decades to dismantle real-world hate.
There's this one incredible conversation where a KKK officer told Daryl that he had a latent criminal gene. Now, Daryl didn't argue. He just flipped the logic right back at him. He listed off a bunch of famous white serial killers and said, well then, the Klansmen must have a latent serial killer gene. The man, of course, protested, and Daryl replied, well, duh, what I said about you was stupid, but no more stupid than what you said about me. And in that one perfect exchange, he forced the man to see how nonsensical his own logic really was.
And this wasn't some lucky one-time thing. By patiently engaging with people, not by preaching, but by planting these tiny seeds of doubt, Daryl Davis has been directly responsible for over 200 people leaving white supremacist groups. It's staggering.
And that leaves all of us with a final, really powerful question to ask ourselves. We all have identities and beliefs we defend to the very end. But if we're being truly honest, which of them, about our politics, our religion, or even our favorite sports team, aren't the product of deep reason, but are simply an accident of birth? Asking that question, well, that's the first step to having the courage to think again.